Okay, welcome back to another episode of Not So Sugar-Coated with Bert and Jasmine. Today, Jasmine is not with us. And depending on the release order here, we may or may not have our first two-time guest on the show. Maybe he's not. Maybe he is. Who knows? We'll see what Jasmine does.
What?
But we have Tyler back with us again today.
You have that list of buttons. Is there a button that we should push? That may be fitting.
That one seems appropriate.
We'll figure it out.
That one seems appropriate. So anyways, today we are continuing our topic of discussion on porn. Yay.
What is that?
It's...
we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Anyways, so today we have Tyler back. Depending on how this comes out, Tiffany might have been on a different episode with Jasmine doing a girls episode because porn with girls is just as common as it is with guys. It's just less talked about. So anyways, I think just what we want to talk about is kind of your journey with it, how you got affected by it, when it crept into your life, how long it's been there, is it still there, that sort of thing. So I can kind of share where I've been, just so you know, so you're not like jumping off the deep end on your own.
Can you give me a quick elevator pitch on your story?
Yeah, so for a recap, because we have an episode with my story on it already, but so I kind of was introduced to it when I was like 10 or 12, somewhere in that age range, 5th, 6th grade, somewhere in there, and for me, it was just more curiosity. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, general curiosity.
So general curiosity is kind of what triggered me. And then I kind of struggled with porn till now, basically. On and off, some days were better than others. I think I saw a naked woman. I was like, I like that. You know what I mean? So I knew I was straight after seeing that.
You got that pretty young.
Pretty young, yeah. So, and they say women mature faster than men or whatever. I don't know how true that is. And the phone line was your only way to the internet at the time.
It was very slow.
And if somebody called your house phone, you got kicked off the internet.
It's not great.
So that sucked. So now we have high-speed internet, and everything's even more easily accessible now than it was then. But at the time, I didn't know how my mom knew, but my mom confronted me about it several different times. And I was like, no, like I would lie, but she was like, I know what you're I know you're doing that. And so that's why the password came out on the computer. But then I asked her, like, how did you know? And she was like, I have eyes in the back of my head. So again,
did you believe that?
I did kind of to an extent.
That's crazy, Mom. I believe you have eyes in the back of your head.
I remember like looking at her hair, like, is there something back there? Like, have I never noticed that? Like, what am I missing here? And that was something she had said growing up. Like, whenever we did anything wrong, she's like, I have eyes in the back of my head. I know what you're doing. But I think what it ultimately was, and I don't know that she's ever admitted it to me, but I think what it was the Holy Spirit talking to her. And as we all know, you can't hide your sin. Like, God knows what you're doing. I don't think it was a bad thing that she was calling me out. I think it was a good thing, honestly. But
in the moment, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, in the moment, it sucks because it's like you got caught. It's the shame that Adam and Eve felt when they first sinned. So once I graduated high school, I had my own laptop. So it was like, see ya, Mom, I don't need your password anymore. I got my own password. I got my own access because by then we had cable internet. And so there was no phone interruptions or anything like that. Going through college and even into our marriage, I struggled with it to the point of before we got married, and I shared this before, but Blake had said to me, we were golfing one time and he drove and he was like, do you still watch porn? And I was like, no.
Listen, Mom, I don't watch porn. Come on.
Listen, dude. No. Like what? He's like,
Mom 2.0.
He's like, don't lie to me. And I was like, okay, I do.
He's like, stare at me in the eyes in the back of my head.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. I do. And he was like, you got to knock that off before you get married. And I was like, yeah, okay. And at that point I think we were engaged. And so that's why he was saying that. We had never talked about it before, so it wasn't like a common topic. I don't know that I ever talked to anyone about it until just recently. But I think that was like the first time somebody outside of my family had ever like confronted me about it. So we got married, and I did not listen to the advice that was given to me. And throughout our marriage, Jasmine caught me a few times, once in the act of masturbation, and one time she found it like on the computer, like an idiot. I didn't close out of the browser, and it's
a rookie mistake.
She was home before me, and she was making dinner, and she shares all this in more detail, but she called me at work while I was at work and was like yelling at me about it. And I was like, that wasn't me. Like
3.0.
Yeah. So I was like, that wasn't me. That was somebody else on the computer. I don't know how that got there. Mind you, it was the two of us living together. So who else would it have been? And then later on, I texted her like, no, that was me. Like, I shouldn't have lied. But it had gotten to the point where she was basically saying, either you figure this out or we're done. Like, I don't care that we have kids. I don't care that, figure this out. This was her way out, basically, of our marriage, because throughout our whole marriage, we've had several issues, which we'll get into in a different episode, but she felt like this was her out. She felt like that was being unfaithful, and I would agree with her. I know that the Bible says that divorce was permitted because of the hardness of your hearts, but it also talks about marital unfaithfulness being a reason for divorce. And it says, it doesn't really get into what marital unfaithfulness is. Most people think of it as just having sex with someone not other than your spouse, basically, but it is any form of cheating, in my opinion, whether that be unknown drug use, porn, or actually sleeping with somebody else, not your spouse. I think there's several different types of cheating that would constitute that, or emotional issues that you have, like anger issues or something like that. I feel like that covers like everything, but I think at the same time, like God wants us to always try to forgive. And one thing she said, that as long as I'm trying to work on it, she's willing to work on it too. But the second that the other person stops trying, then they should be done, type of thing. So like if you stopped trying to get over something, it would be okay for Tiffany to leave you. Not that I'm suggesting that, but, and I told her, I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like there's got to be a certain amount of time before you give up. I don't know what that amount of time is, because it does say in the Bible also, forgive 70 times 7 times 7 times whatever.
It's a lot. It's a lot of forgiveness.
It's basically, I think the math works out to like 490 times or something.
I think the illustration, if I remember correctly, is he was basically saying the largest number possible.
Yeah.
It wasn't like actually.
Yeah. It wasn't like
check the box.
Yeah. It wasn't like a check the box number. It was just like.
Yeah. I think the math that was used was, as far as Jews are concerned, there was something about it being like the highest number that you could basically fathom.
Yeah.
So it was basically like, how often do you forgive? Always. Obviously. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah. And so that's where it comes into question. Are you a pushover, or are you actually, like, is there a reason to actually forgive the person? Like, are they actually genuinely remorseful for what they're doing, or are they just playing you, basically?
This could become a very theological question and conversation very fast.
Yeah. So that's a different episode. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I did start going to therapy about a year ago. I don't know if you knew that, but I don't really care if you know that or not. I mean, it's totally fine. It was more awkward telling my parents than it was telling anybody. But the reason I started going to therapy was because of porn. Yeah, about a year ago or so, Jasmine caught me here, and that's when she was like, either figure this out or we're done. And so there was a therapist that we had been talking about going back to therapy just in general. We had gone to couples therapy, but there was somebody that he used to preach at Access every once in a while. He was like a guest speaker, and I didn't know he was a therapist. That was good. I had like a nameless, faceless person kind of ramble too. And, he's helped me significantly, not just with porn, but in general with several different life issues, shall we say, to the point where I would strongly recommend going to therapy. If you haven't gone, or if you're on the fence about it, I would say do it. So that's kind of where I'm at. One thing Jasmine likes to say is for people who have dealt with porn in the past, or she heard it on a different podcast, that it's an addiction and you are getting over an addiction and you are always going to be addicted to it. Now, always and never are words I don't like to use just because of the extremeness of them.
They're long words. I will say always is only as long as you're alive. So eventually, it does end.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. So basically the comparison is that you're addicted to porn, kind of like an alcoholic. An alcoholic avoids going to bars. A recovering alcoholic, I should say, will avoid going to bars almost at any cost. They won't have alcohol in their house. They go to AA meetings. They do all these different things to recover, but at the same time, they know that if they reintroduce alcohol into their lives, that crap can go down real quick because it's like a comfort. So that's where she gets that. That's where that mentality comes from. Put up the blockers and the safeguards to avoid porn, but without those, you might struggle still. And some people do get completely free. Like there are people that get healed and they're instantly freed or whatever. I feel like that happens more for people who aren't Christians and get saved than it does for people who are Christians. Not saying it can't happen, but I feel like most of the testimonies we see at church are, I was partying, I was drinking, and I wasn't doing anything. And then one night I got saved and then everything fell off, and like they had an instant miracle is what we like to call it. And I feel like the instant miracle doesn't happen as often as as often as they make it out to be at the church. I don't know if you feel that way, but
yeah, I feel like it probably pertains to. I don't think there's necessarily a rhyme or reason, but I feel like when you come to Christ, you come with an image of your head of the old self coming to pass. And so there's a lot that's written off mentally when you're engaged in something as a Christian. There's not really a lot that changes between deciding not to do something and already doing it. Right? It's not like you have this life change and everything goes. No, it's like, no, you're the same person you were yesterday. Nothing categorically changed.
Right.
And you have to create the separation necessary to actually, fix it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at, and kind of a little groundwork. So I don't know where you want to start. Maybe where you first were introduced to it. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll just
and then kind of share your story, and maybe I'll jump in here and there with thoughts and opinions. But
yeah, please do.
Yeah. So
yeah, I get that. So in that, we talk a little bit about ourselves as a precursor to those who maybe have or won't listen to that.
Yeah.
My name's Tyler Maurer, and been friends of Bert and Jasmine for a long time. They were was it kind of like, it's not like Mr. and
Master and Mistress?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even know those titles existed before we did. Never been married before. The first time I got married, and only time I'm going to be married, I didn't even know that role was a thing. So we were blessed to have you guys at the wedding. We really were. And currently married to my wonderful, wonderful wife, Tiffany Maurer, who was previously Tiffany Mora. So her name has like initially stayed the same, TM. Which is pretty cool. It's like TM.
Yeah.
Tyler Maurer, Tiffany Maurer. And so we've been married about 7 years now. And we met when I was coming right before I was finished with college. So I did a dual degree in college. So it took me a year longer than normal to get out. So I got one in biblical studies and one in business, bachelor's degrees. And so when we got married, she was like basically the one funding everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like we got married. I was still in college.
Yeah.
I was working.
Yeah, you didn't have a job.
I didn't have it's like I didn't have anything worth speaking about.
Yeah.
It was all negligible.
Yeah.
So we moved in with her parents after we got married, and she supported us, and she was doing an internship for the church. So she was making the most money doing an internship while I was in school working. Basically, I think it was what's this, Outback Steakhouse?
Yeah.
I think it was at Outback.
Yeah. You were like a
host.
Yeah, host.
Yeah, I was a host. Man, what an interesting experience. So
those free steaks were so good though.
They were so good. 50% off.
Okay, 50%
Yeah,
off. I don't think we paid for them. No. I think you were paying for them.
Yeah, I brought it.
But they were delicious.
They were good. They're good. I remember when I used to think like Outback was like super expensive.
Oh, I know.
I was like, man, when we grew up as kids, we would go out to eat, and it was like you wouldn't even get a soft drink.
Yeah.
And you would buy like a burger, and you wouldn't get the fries. Like that was our budget. Like we didn't go out to eat. When we did, you got the entree, no sides, no anything. So
McDonald's was a treat. Like
and so when you go to Outback, you're like, oh my gosh, $15 burger,
right? You feel like a king.
Yeah, $20 steak. Like, oh my gosh, that's splurging. So that's when we got married, and we have. Yeah. Okay. So it's not necessarily about that. So now, so more about just to preface, like where I am now.
That's fine.
So, going back, one thing I want to acknowledge before going forward, we are drinking.
Oh yeah.
Bert set this whole thing up and has been an amazing host. And it was supposed to be another party here. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make it. But Bert has provided pizza. He has provided breadsticks, and he asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said a Red Bull. He bought the largest Red Bull, a 20-ounce Red Bull that I am now drinking, and he gave me a straw. And so I have a metal straw with a purple rubber top on it in this 20-ounce can of Red Bull, and you have a big gulp with a much better drink for you, water.
Yes.
It's a massive big gulp full of water. The healthiest thing like I think I've seen like in a while.
We'll see what happens after you leave, but
that's great. So like, and we were talking as we were eating, we were talking about this episode in general, and it's not a normal thing to talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
I feel like it's something that even when you're going through it, right? Like kind of like what you testified to is like, even when someone talks about it that you were close with, you still want to deny it.
Yeah.
You don't want to tell your mom about it. You don't want to tell your wife about it. You don't want to tell friends about it. You just don't want to tell about it. It's something that is super close to the individual. And I think one of the important things about you and Jasmine doing this is the ability to show that you can be open about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think like anything that people struggle with, if you try to put something in the dark, then it actually is more powerful.
Yeah.
And it is actually showing you that it has control of you when you cannot speak about it.
Yeah. So
I think this is really cool, being able to have a conversation like this. So I appreciate you guys putting this on, and I appreciate your honesty, and it's really cool. So,
and we appreciate you guys coming on and being honest too, because like you said, it is awkward, and not everybody does want to talk about it, even though it's like 80% of people struggle with it in some form or fashion throughout their life, if not their whole life.
It's like the Spider-Man meme where all the Spider-Mans are like pointing at each other.
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
like surprised. They're like, no, I'm Spider-Man, you're Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like,
and it's like, no.
It's like actually all of us.
Yeah.
So I was really young when I was first exposed to porn. It was a close friend of mine that showed it to me. We were at my parents' house, and he went on the computer, and I remember this, like, emotion often like cements a memory in your head, and it was a very high emotional moment that solidified the memory. And we went into kind of like a side room, like a sunroom.
Yeah.
And the computer was on the wall. So if you walk into the room, the computer is the opposite side of that wall. Okay. So as you walk in, you look to the, like, say you walk through the door, you look to the left, you'd see the side of the computer, and you'd have to come around front of it to interact with it.
Basically, you were hidden. We
were hidden, but this is the part that really stuck out. It was night, and there was a glass window behind us.
Okay.
And that catches a reflection. And so anyone in the other room, and there's a few people in there, anyone in the other room, if they look in, they won't see us because we're in the middle of the room, but they'll see the window, and then on the window, they'll see the reflection of the computer screen. And so he pulls up a website, and on the website is the most generic thing you can imagine. It's just like a naked lady with boobs. It wasn't even like full. It was all I remember are the top half. And in that moment, I was probably like 8.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I was really young. And in that moment, my kind of how I imagine I'll feel after drinking this entire can of Red Bull, 20 ounces of Red Bull, is I felt like my body felt like anxious. And it was almost like petrified. And in an instant, I was like, the screen is reflecting on the window behind us.
Yeah.
And if anyone looks in here, they'll see what we're seeing. And I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
And frankly, I can't even remember like why he showed it to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he's like, hey, I'm going to show you this thing. I'm like, yeah, cool, let's do it. No, he was just showing me this thing. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's crazy that you knew at that age that it was wrong.
It felt wrong.
You know what I mean?
And
like,
I was scared of other people knowing that we saw what was on the computer. Yeah. And so that was my first exposure to it. Now, obviously, in that moment, you're like, get it off the screen, turn it off, get it away. I don't want to be near it. I don't want to be by it. But later, you're like,
what was that?
What was that? That was pretty hot.
That was pretty awesome.
It was pretty cool. And that's because emotionally, as men, you're obviously attracted to the female physique.
All right.
Right. We're meant to be attracted to females.
Right. Yeah.
And so later you become curious again, and he ended up showing me more. And that was kind of like where everything started. He eventually told me about masturbation as well.
Okay.
So it was kind of like the whole thing came from this guy. Now,
and this was while you were 8 years old.
We're bloody young.
That is crazy.
Really young. Yeah. Like unnaturally young for this stuff. And I think the average age where people are exposed to this stuff is coming down. Like it's becoming very common to be exposed.
Oh, I believe that.
At a very young age.
It's so much easier now.
Yeah. It's just
so
like on your phone accidentally, or you'll run into an ad. Yeah. And then that is, you know, it's very easy to get pulled into it. Yeah. So I was like, I'm 28 now. And from 8 on, I basically had intermittent like struggles with it. Like times where you go like 3 times a day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For like a month or whatever that is, right? It's like it gets in your head and you can't really get it out. Yeah. And it's super addictive. It's chemically addictive. Like your brain becomes chemically addicted to it. And so when you are young, I'm just going to be, you become horny. You're really horny when you're young. You are as horny as you can be.
Yeah, especially for a guy. I mean,
it's just downhill after that.
I mean, their peak sexual drive is what, 16 to 30 or something like that?
Something like that. Oh, frick, I'm running out of
time. You're not running out of time.
I'm saying 16 to 30.
Oh, you're running out.
I got 2 more years. Yeah.
You're so young.
Dang. Yeah. So it's something that if you are young enough and you are introduced to it, it is cyclical, it is highly addictive, and you become ashamed of it and you don't want to talk about it and you want to hide from it, and it changes how you think. You become paranoid, right? Because you're doing this thing and you know it's wrong. You don't want other people to know about it. So you're kind of like walking on edge. Like, wait, does my mom have 2 eyes in the back of her head?
Right, yeah.
Does my dad have 2 eyes in the back? Like, everyone has 2 eyes in the back of their head. I remember we had a Gateway desktop computer. Old stuff. I don't even think you buy Gateway anymore.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can, yeah. And
that's what eBay's for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we ended up getting that computer, and we were homeschooled, so it was in the homeschool room.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was over the garage of our house. We would go up there. There's 2 siblings, 2 sisters, 1 brother, and we would all like have our books up there, and we'd spend time with the mom, and we'd go through our coursework, and other families we were schooling with, we'd go through school up there, and it made it a very good spot to be away from people, because you were, around that corner, up the stairs, to the left, behind the wall, like very secluded.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy to be like, okay, there's a computer and you can use it. And I remember gateways are not great computers and it lagged on me. And the first thing that happens when you hear someone coming is close the browser, exit out, see if you have time to close it, like delete the history.
Yeah.
So like delete the history, close the browser, maybe pull up another page so it can look like you're doing something else. Like you're trying to delete evidence, you're trying to remove it, and you're trying to create a distraction to change the focus of the topic. And the computer froze. And so my mom is coming up the stairs and I'm sitting there looking at the computer, and it was one of those websites where the entire website was just like plastered with images. So like left to right, top to bottom, like good interfaces and these terrible websites. Like you just scrolled and that's all it was. And so it froze and I couldn't exit out. And I heard her walking up and I kept clicking the exit and it wouldn't exit out. And I was getting so anxious. She was coming up the stairs and I couldn't get it off. And she came up and she saw it. And I was sitting there and I was so scared. I was so scared because I'm like in the moment, you're like, I feel wrong. And I feel like if I look back, it's like, you feel like you did let your mom down.
Yeah.
Right. Like you let your parents down, you let yourself down, you let God down, you let everyone down. And it was verified. Like it was evidence. Red receipt on it. It was like, crap, it happened. And someone saw it. It's valid. It's stamped. Yeah. And I remember like the moment she came around, she saw it. My mom's like the best person. She's like this loving lady. And I just like break down and I just start like crying. And I'm like, I am so sorry. And she grabs me and she holds me and she's like, what happened? And so that's the first time anyone outside of, I think like my friend, like really knew about that. And my mom, she just like held me and she was like, it's okay. And crying was probably about like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the first time someone ever like caught me doing it. And then they put passwords on the stuff. And so I can't remember what age that was. But ever since then, it's, 28. And when you start that young, it doesn't really, like it changes how your brain's wired in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that I feel like you don't ever really, I'll just say, I'm going to take a step away from porn really quick. I'm just going to say lust.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what the topic is, porn/lust,
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people get around this conversation. A lot of Christians get around this conversation by saying, I don't struggle with porn. I don't go to a website.
Yeah.
I don't see anything like that. I'm like, no, dude, it's a hard issue.
Yeah.
You struggle with lust, and that's the part that's not good.
Yeah. Like you're still staring at the boobies.
You're still looking at them. Or even if you're not, like you're looking at them with clothes on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is what people don't understand is when you get married, like sex is something that becomes normal.
Yeah.
It becomes accessible. And the thing that is addictive about porn is how it's not right. It feels wrong.
Yeah.
And so there's this part, it's almost like adrenaline, right? Like you get adrenaline because you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And it kind of like puts you on edge. And when you're married, it's not on edge anymore. Like it's natural, it's normal, it's actually good. It's good to have sex in marriage.
Yeah.
And so when you're married, having sex does not always satisfy like lust.
Yeah.
And so people think, oh, I'll get married, I'll have sex, it'll be great, I'll be done. I was like, nope. Yeah. You get married and you realize that stuff is exactly where it was earlier and is not going away.
Yeah, it doesn't go away, and it gets worse because now you are married.
Yeah, well now you're trying to hide it from someone else if you struggle from it, right?
Yeah.
And it's this thing that matures as you mature, and it's almost like the words slipping my mind. It's a parasite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a parasite. It sucks happiness out of you. It sucks who you are out of you. It kind of like, again, you live on edge. So, yeah, so I could, like up till now, I could say it's always something that you're going to struggle with.
Right.
And I feel like those who are able to escape it are in a great position. And obviously you can put guardrails up and you can do a lot to get away from it. You can actually like not watch it at all.
Yeah.
But it's something that you do have to be wary about ever like coming back into your life.
Yeah. That was something that my therapist was telling me, was that you can have your passwords and you can have all these things, but they're like guardrails on the side of the highway. Like they're good to have so you don't drive off in the wrong direction on the highway, but ultimately you shouldn't need them. You know what I mean? Like if that's what's preventing you from being in a car accident, you probably shouldn't be on the road driving. You know what I mean? So like, yes, you should have them, but you should also learn to drive in the middle of the road or in your lane, stay in your lane basically, and not need them. Like have that line be so far away from you on the good side that it's invisible. Like you don't even see it. Like it doesn't even cross your mind that it's there anymore. You're just cruising along in the middle of the road, going 70 or whatever, however fast you go on the highway. Tyler goes faster on the highway probably.
71.
Oh, 71?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
71. Yeah, nothing more than that.
Yeah, definitely never driving like 100 in that little red convertible your parents have.
No, not me, man.
You're a responsible driver.
Very responsible. I actually, when we were on our way back from from Utah, sorry, not Ohio, I got a ticket on the way back. And the great thing about Utah is the speed limit's 80 miles per hour.
Nice.
But, I, as far as safety was concerned, stayed in my lane.
Right.
Was driving straight.
Yeah.
And I was doing all the right stuff. But yeah, no, I definitely drive a little faster than most. I can say that. It's fun though. That's fun. Yeah, but no, it's definitely something where you want to put guardrails up.
Yeah.
But to think that guardrails are going to stop you or be like the answer.
Yeah. Like that can't be your that can't be your solution.
No. And
that's got to be like a helper to
Yeah.
your solution. Like,
yeah. And I think the reason that people go back to it is because it is something that can like satisfy you.
yeah.
And it feels like it's something that is dependable and it's something that you can have control over. And there's something almost, I don't want to say comforting, because it's not necessarily comforting, but it's like something that you're familiar with.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. It is, I forget how my therapist described it, but it's like a comfort food.
Yeah. Like I'm going to go get some wings.
Yeah.
And I'm going to eat way too many.
No.
And I'm going to feel like crap, but they're good. And I know what they taste like. And I know every time I have them, they taste good.
Yeah. They've never let me down.
They've never let me down.
Yeah.
They're always there for me. Yeah. Those wings.
And that is how porn is for single people.
Yeah.
And married people even. Like it's that chemical high that you were talking about. Yeah. And it is like a comfort thing because it's not going to let you down. You know what the end result is, as bad as that sounds. You know what I mean? You know where you're going to end up and you know where you're going to go and you know how that feels. And it's not that it's comfortable or that it's a good thing, but in the moment it's like a comfort for you and it's not going to let you down.
And I feel like there's something super manipulative that we do to ourselves is that we know that when you are done looking at it and during the moment that you are looking at it, you feel like you're letting yourself down.
Yeah.
And you can feel the weight of your decision in the moment. Yeah. And that in that moment when you're letting yourself down, you have this like voice in the back of your head where you're like, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You do it so much that you're like, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And you feel like you fail every time you do it.
Yeah.
And so when you go back to it, like you embody like this subconscious message in your mind that is, I'm a failure. I know I'm a failure. And it kind of is like the devil on your shoulder that's like, yeah, you are a failure.
Yeah. Well, I remember feeling like, well, I've already done it. might as well keep going. Like that was the other thing that
I feel hopeless.
Like it was like, you're already doing it. You might as well, like, what's the point in trying to get any better? Like, you're not going to get any better. Just keep doing it. Like, nobody has to know. Jasmine's not going to find out. And then, of course, she finds out. Like, obviously.
She's got eyes in the back of her head.
Exactly. She probably
Mom
does.
3.0.
She probably does, honestly.
In the best way possible. I don't mean that
Yeah.
in any way. Moms
No.
are great.
Yeah.
Any mom 1.0, 2.0, or 3.0 will be respected and loved.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of, and we're getting to understand like how much of an impact porn has on your mind. Like it rewires your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's crazy how much it does to you even when you're not involved with it, how much your brain is impacted by the amount of time that you've spent watching it.
Yeah.
And we joke about it so easily and we laugh about it. And it's actually kind of, I'm just thinking about like how derogatory our humor is and how it lampoons this issue. And it's like when you contribute porn mentally to failure, because you do.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know it, you do.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to. If you were going to say like, what is the ideal version of myself? It's not someone that would watch porn.
Right. Yeah.
It's not someone that would be addicted to it. So it doesn't matter who you are. Like we make jokes to justify why we do it. If you could go back in time and change something, what would you change? For me, it would absolutely 100% be the moment I was ever exposed.
Right. Yeah.
To porn. I would obliterate it. I would do everything I could to go back to my previous self and be like, don't stop. It's not worth it. It's not like a one-time thing.
No.
And one of the celebrities I really look up to, which is a weird thing to say, but it was Terry Crews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I remember when Terry Crews came out on Facebook and he talked about his addiction to porn. And he's, at the time, was like 30, high 30s,
Yeah.
mid 40s. Yeah. And you're like, that could be me in 15 years, 20 years,
Yeah.
where you think it's one more time. But no, it's like 45-year-olds are struggling with it. 60-year-olds are struggling with it.
Yeah.
And it's a cyclical thing that carries you out forever if you don't really get a hold of it.
Yeah. I remember when he did that and I was like, what?
Terry
Like,
Crews, what?
not only is it not a topic that's being talked about, but for somebody to come out on national television and say, here I am, I'm struggling with this, and my wife is supporting me through this. Like, you never hear them outing themselves. Nowadays, it's like the media finds something out about you. Like,
And
if
they're
you're
like,
famous.
look, this person's doing the thing that we do.
Yeah. Like,
We're gonna
look,
make a
this
big
guy's
deal
got a
about it.
cocaine issue. Meanwhile, everybody's,
Look,
yeah,
he's got a cocaine issue.
yeah, exactly. Like, so it's like him being able to get in front of the story before it exposes itself. And I feel like that wouldn't even expose itself because of how normalized it is in society. There's an episode of Friends where they have free porn on their TV and they don't change the channel. They don't turn the TV off. They don't touch the remote. They're like, we got free porn. We don't want to mess with this. Like, that's how normalized it is in society. And that was in the 90s when there was dial-up internet and maybe DSL starting type of thing. But, you know, it was so normalized even then. Like, hey, we got free porn. Don't mess with this. And then even throughout the episode, they like go on to say like, kind of sick of this, but like, why would I turn this off? Like, that's the mindset that you get. Like, what? I don't want to turn this off. It's free, you know, like,
Yeah. And even as you're talking about that, I can't help but think about the script writer who put that in.
yeah,
And you know that they're laughing about it and they're trying to normalize it because they don't feel good about it.
yeah,
And we're talking about this, and the conversation, like as we're even talking about it, I'm like, man, what do you even do about any of it? Like as a guy, you try to like fix stuff.
yeah,
You try to find solutions to problems. And I don't really even know how you would go about approaching the problem. And obviously that's why we're here, right? We're talking about it because
Yeah.
we're trying to I think even being able to have a conversation about it helps.
Yeah, I don't even think we're going to try and solve it or even attempt to solve it. I think normalizing the conversation is the bigger thing because so many people don't talk about it. You go up to somebody and they're like, "How you doing?" "I'm good," knowing full well that
they're not good.
They're not good. But how would most people respond to the honesty? Like, how would you honestly react if I said, "Yeah, I'm struggling with porn, man. Like, Jasmine found out, and it's her way or the highway. Like, I got to get this under." How are you going to respond to that? Most people are going to run. You know what I mean? They're not. They're going to be like, "Okay, I got to go. Bye." You know what I mean? You're not going to. There's not many people that are going to sit there and say, "I'm going to help you with this. Like, I'm going to help you get through this," or something like that. Like, I feel like that's the opposite of common. That's like the most uncommon response that you could get. The common thing is to run.
Yeah.
So
escape.
Yeah. Escape.
Yeah. I even think the series that you guys are going through and the heart behind this podcast, the ability to talk about things that we're just uncomfortable to talk about to talk about
and it's also things that the church isn't comfortable talking about.
I know that's the part that feels really weird. I guess the part that's very evident, right? Like you don't hear this conversation on a Sunday morning, and if you do, it's always like post.
Yeah, I used to have that
my
problem.
issue. Yeah, or if you are, shame on you, right? It's like if you have this issue, and you shouldn't normalize it, right? Yeah. It's not even about normalizing it, but it's normalizing the fact that, like, on a day-to-day basis, like, people do struggle.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it's with, to your point, right? Like alcoholism, if you struggle with anger, if you struggle with porn, you struggle with, I don't know, pick your poison.
Yeah.
It's that we don't even feel comfortable talking about the things that are like trying to pull us into the dark.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you knew the things that were trying to pull me in the dark, how would you feel about me?
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Like, can I? And if I do, are you going to look at me differently?
Right.
And if I care about my image, do I really want to be that open and that transparent with what I'm struggling with?
Yeah.
And so it's something that, I don't know, I just think about like my family, and I'm thinking about like my cousins, and they're in that age where they're going through high school, about to go into college, and you just hope that their life hasn't been the same as yours, and you just don't want other people to have gone through that issue. And it's almost it's heartbreaking to think that, and to know that it is this hard, because it's not easy, like, sitting here and talking about this.
Yeah.
But it's hard to be able to have open conversations about the things you struggle with.
Yeah.
All right. Because, I mean, we're all very used to the perfect Instagram photos. My life is great.
Yeah.
It's better than yours. By the way, have you seen this awesome ice cream that I am eating right now with all my best friends, who I'm always with, by the way? Yeah. And like how perfect I am, don't mind the filters and the whatever, and all of the things that I'm using to make myself feel better about it.
Yeah.
It's like, we're so fake.
Yeah. I'm drowning in debt, but look at all this fun stuff I'm doing.
All this fun stuff. I'm so happy. Oh my gosh, it's so expensive. I can't afford it.
I'm clinically depressed, but I'm going to smile.
I'm clinically depressed, but I'm happy. Like, guys.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But it's weird, right? Like, as Americans, right? We're abnormally blessed, just as, like, historically the wealthiest country in the world, to be in the situation that we are. Like, we're leaps and bounds physically wealthier than your traditional person has historically been, with amenities that you would never have in the past.
It's fine.
And so, okay, so you have basic needs are provided, and then you have to struggle to provide value, to find value, to be unique, to be socially accepted. In that need to be socially accepted, it becomes very difficult to talk about the issues that you struggle with.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is very hard, especially among Christians, where we're supposed to be, like, helping each other out and open with each other and supporting each other.
Yeah.
How people perceive us stops us from communicating, stops us from creating the relationships that we need to have. That's all I got there.
Yes, this has been an issue. Yes, this is an ongoing issue, or it was an ongoing issue for X amount of years. And like whatever it is, that's hard to find people.
It's hard. It's hard when the all of like the main struggles that you have are extracurricular to the normal conversations you have.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you want to actually solve your problems, you have to go out of your way to find people that will help you. You have to go out of your way to have honest conversations. And it's not in your daily conversation that you can have, especially like when, you know, you get a traditional sermon does not talk about that. And it doesn't let you, like, you're looking up at this person who has spotlights on them and they're walking around and they're nicely dressed and they look and they're well spoken and they look like they have their life together and they have a wife and kids and they're like the pinnacle of what you're supposed to be. And then this person is just telling you that it's wrong, and they're telling you like all these things that you already know it's wrong.
Yeah.
And so you come away from this like sermon with this person who's untouchable, and you feel so disconnected from everyone else around you, and you don't know how to go about actually addressing the problem. I'd want to say that it's something that people struggle with. It's not just you.
Yeah.
It's not just these people. Like it's a problem that a lot of people struggle with, and it's normal, not to humanize it, but it's a very normal problem to have.
Yeah.
And that you can actually talk about it and you can get past it, and there's things you can do to resolve it and to address it sooner than later.
Yeah.
Right? Like it would have been a message of encouragement instead of like a message of
avoidance
or I don't know, just making it seem bad.
Yeah.
Because we already get that. We already understand it.
Yeah.
In your gut, it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess how long are you still struggling with it? Like how long have you said you started at 8? Has it been like something that's affected your marriage at all or anything like that? Or were you better than me and you got it under control before your marriage? Like,
oh, absolutely not. No, for sure not. No. No,
so I don't know if you want to open up on that or not.
Yeah, I'll talk.
You don't have to, but
Yeah, well, ask a question and I'll answer it. I definitely didn't have it together. Actually, one of the reasons I wanted to get married was because I understood that I was kind of on this path that wasn't positive. I was on a negative path, and I was put in situations where I wasn't able to resist like temptation that was put in front of me. And so fortunately I wasn't in a position where I ever had premarital sex, but I went far enough that I was like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And so I was going down this trail and I was like, I am either going to pull a lever on this like train track I'm on and I'm going to like divert it, or I'm going to like fall off the bridge.
Yeah.
And so I remember this one of the reasons, like you could say I got in a relationship very young was because I'm like, I got to take my life more seriously, and I have to start working on a solution to this problem. And so I wanted to get out of an area where I was tempted, which was right, being single and being in these relationships where you'd be pulled a certain amount and you're like, I want to get out of that and I want to find someone that I can spend the rest of my life with. And so I started looking intentionally for someone that I could be married to. And I found Tiffany. Like, she's a fantastic person. And I was like, that's it. That's all I really want. All I really want is to be able to be in a relationship with someone that I love and to be able to get away from this like situation. And there's a part of that I don't want to like say is the right thing to do. The right thing to do isn't to get married, like trying to find a solution.
Yeah.
That doesn't solve the problem. What I was trying to do was stop myself where I was and look 5 years down the road and say, if I continued on this, where will I be in 5 years? Will I be happy? Or will I be sad?
Yeah.
what's the most important thing I can do to impact how I am in 5 years? And I was like, I have to get married. I have to get married. If I continue the way I am, I'm not going to be happy with the person I become in 5 years. So that's why I started looking to get married. Now, you do have this false hope that when you do get married, everything is better.
Yeah.
You have this false hope.
Well, and I think the church portrays that.
It may. It's entirely.
I think they talk about marriage problems, but they also say it's almost like once you're married, all your problems go away. Like you have a partner now, like all these things are your life's gonna improve. You get to have sex. You don't have to worry about not being able to have sex. Like you don't have to have that guilty conscience of premarital sex or anything like that. It's like, check, horny's going down because you can get down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know. It's like once you are 21, then alcohol is fine. Like it's not going to hurt you anymore because you're legally able to drink it or whatever. But it's like that doesn't mean anything. Like it can still screw you up. You know. Like,
yeah. No, that's spot on. Yeah. So you got married, and I will say at the moment I did get better.
Okay.
I was able to focus better, and I was able to be more attentive. And half of that is like just not being by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not by yourself as much, you're tempted less. You have less opportunities to. You go to the same bed that your wife is in.
Yeah.
And there's just less opportunity. So you have more of a concrete foundation holding you up than you do just yourself. If you're an introvert and you struggle with lust and you don't like being around people, that is like the worst combination because you keep yourself by yourself. You keep yourself away from others. And when you're away from others, you get tempted and there's no one there to stop you.
Yeah.
And it's a bad spot to be. So after getting married, and even before marriage, I was able to do a little bit better. But there were post-marriage, definitely struggled. I'd say like I still do.
You still do to this day?
To this day.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you go through, you go through a mall.
Yeah.
You're like, I am still not 30, Bert. I am still young. I am still in my prime. I got 2 more years. Maybe after 2 more years, it'll go away. Though, it probably doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
You're looking at me like, yeah, it doesn't go away.
I mean, I would say that your sex drive might drop a little, but the idea of looking doesn't.
Yeah.
Like you're still going to want to look. And I think the internet and the creepy advertising knows that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you can't really, you go watch a movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, bam, it's right there.
Yeah. So that's one of her rules is we won't see a rated R movie if there's nudity in it of any kind. I think the only kind of nudity that she might be okay with is like seeing a dude's butt for whatever, like
dude's butt, not a painting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like, so, and I think that's even changed since, but I think like you can go on IMDb and see the parental guide of what is in the movie basically. And it, depending on the user, they get pretty detailed of what you see
what's in it
within a movie. And so that's kind of what we have been making our judgments based on anything we watch, TV or movies. Like there was a TV show about like the basketball from the 80s, like the Los Angeles Lakers and Larry Bird, like when he was with the Boston Celtics. And I was like, oh, I really want to watch that. Like it's on Hulu or whatever. And it looks really interesting. And then she's reading the thing on IMDb and it's like, there's an orgy, there's 2 girls doing things to each other, and there's dudes doing all sorts of unspeakable things. I'm like, I guess we're not watching that. Like, you know what I mean?
By the third bullet point, you're like, man, I should probably not watch that.
So like, and I think before we realized how much of an issue it was for us, I think we were under the impression that's not affecting me. Like, I can see a naked girl in a movie and it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Or I can see a dude thrusting and whatever. That's not affecting me.
It's an interesting way to put it.
But then later that night, you're Googling the movie to try and rewatch that scene. You know what I mean? Or you're looking up that actress or that actor saying, what else do you got? You know what I mean? Like they've let you into their most intimate spaces by being exposed like that you I think that's part of what draws you to porn and lust, is the intimacy you feel with another person without the emotional or physical contract. You know what I mean? Like, if I saw you naked, like, that would be something, it'd be weird. Like,
Yep, it'd be weird.
You know what I mean? But like, if I can see it on a screen and you don't know I'm seeing you naked, that emotional detachment is what is so comforting for people.
Yeah, it's almost like the difference of like paying cash versus like tapping a credit card.
Yeah,
Like
you
each
don't
form of removal you have from like cash makes it easier to spend.
Yeah, and you don't realize like how much money you're spending until you get your credit card bill.
You're like, frick.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, what did I do?
Yeah, it's like, I think it was swiping with a credit card. Swiping with a debit card is easier than using cash. Swiping with a credit card is easier than using a debit card.
Yeah.
Tapping with a debit card is easier than swiping with a credit card. So we're like 4 forms removed from cash, and it's exceedingly easy to spend money right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's kind of what it was, or what it is, for why it's so easy to watch that stuff and get hooked into it. Like, it's not just seeing, it does affect you and you don't even realize it.
Yeah. Your subconscious absorbs more than you can.
Yeah. It's like our kids. They're like, what is this? What is this? And they're like pointing out the most random things that you say, and they're repeating it back to you. Like, they hear everything. And it's like your subconscious, like you said, like you're retaining more than you realize. And then it eventually evolves into something much worse. And by then you almost have no control over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even, I think it does impact you and impacts you negatively. But this conversation around like boundaries, I think, is really interesting, because I feel like it's something that will only get worse, like going forward. It's been worse up until now, but in a world of always having access and always having subliminal messaging or outright messaging and medians that you can't even like avoid. I was at the airport. There was a vending machine. There was a Kim Kardashian vending machine. And there she was, like, basically naked on the ad at an airport with kids walking around. Like, this is worse than any Victoria's Secret place I've ever gone by. Yeah. And so I kind of like came to a realization. I was like, this isn't going anywhere. It's going to become more pervasive. Yeah. And how do you avoid something when your safeguards don't stop things from coming into your life? Yeah. I'm not sure that there is an answer.
No, I don't. I don't know what it would be. I mean, it started out magazines, and it eventually became like video, like VHS videos. A VHS is a tape. It's what a DVD and a Blu-ray was before a DVD and a Blu-ray, and that's what you used to use before you were streaming. So we're talking like 17 steps ago. But like, it started off with a hidden room in a Blockbuster, or like they had their own separate room behind a curtain. So like if you went in there, people knew what you were doing, but like it was secluded and it was hidden, and it was very hard to get to, or hard to walk out of without somebody knowing what you were doing. And now it's like, it's on your phone. It's on an airport ad. It's on a magazine at the grocery store. It's not, before it was hidden. They'd have a plastic bag or something over it, like a paper bag, so that little kids wouldn't see it. But now it's like, here I am, world. I'm out and available. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's on your phone. It's on your tablet. It's in every movie that you see. Like, there's something in almost every movie that's suggestive at the minimum. Yeah. And
even like kids movies.
Yeah, even kids movies. Like there's always been adult humor in kids movies, and I don't think people realized it until, you can drink it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm just gonna move the tab.
The tab. Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's been there the whole time, and it's just never, I don't think it's been realized by people until now. Yeah. I think.
And I don't think the more that we're talking about this and how inevitable, it seems. Like Thanos down there, inevitable. It does seem like, and I think it's fairly apparent too, but as a Christian, I mean, I think the only way around something like that is a relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any substitute for self-control. And I don't think there's any substitute for a relationship with God. And I think that's, you can try to cut the law in as many ways as you want, but in the end, you're going to, there's like, how many ways can you skin a cat?
Yeah.
You end up with the same problem.
Yeah.
And the only way you can actually get past it or mentally resolve it is to get to a point where you have a relationship with God that is more important than the thing. And that's not to say that that's like easy, or even saying that to like make anyone feel bad.
Well, I think you constantly have to renew your mind. I mean, it says
it's a daily,
it's a daily thing. It says renew my mind, but it's not like renew my mind once and I'm good. It's like a daily thing.
It's submission.
Every morning or whatever, every night, whenever you're praying, renew my mind. Help me with this. I'm struggling. Like,
Yep.
it's not a one and done. I mean, again, for some people it is one and done. I feel like for the majority of people and the people that I feel like would want to listen to this, it's not one and done. It wasn't one and done for me. It's still not one and done for me. Like, I still struggle with it. Like, and I think that something that I've been praying, like, renew my mind. I don't want to do this. Please. Like, and I think that, and I don't know if this is a confirmed thing or not, because I'm still trying to figure it out. But lately, when I feel like I don't know that I've been tempted, but I've been on the path to temptation, shall we say.
Yep.
I have found myself falling asleep. And I want to say it's a God thing, but at the same time, I don't want to sound super spiritual and say it's a God thing, but I feel like
Could have just been a really busy day at work.
Yeah, and that's
But that could be a God thing.
But that's the thing. I have this. There's slushy in this most of the time, and I've drank some of it, at least some of it, to the point where I shouldn't be tired. I should have some form of caffeine energy swirling around, and I fall asleep for like an hour or something at like 10 or 11, something like that. And I wake up and I'm like, what just happened? And then I'm like, I'm wide awake, but I'm not tempted anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like that anymore. And so I don't know if that's a God thing. It's something I've been experiencing within the last couple weeks, I would say.
I don't think it's unfair to say it isn't. Maybe not like implicitly.
Yeah.
Putting you to sleep. Like,
yeah.
He's like, all right, that's enough, Bert. Time to go to bed.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because it's like a gradual falling asleep. It's like, for those of you who are just listening, because this is only audio, it was me pretending to fall asleep and waking back up.
Visually, it looked like you were nodding off.
Yeah. So
like
it was like,
you're in class and you're like, your head's nodding.
So like my head is dropping, and then I'm like, oh wait, I'm still awake. Like I'm watching TV or like watching a YouTube video, and I'll wake up like an hour and a half later, and it's like 10 different videos later, and I don't even know what's on the screen anymore. Like, it's something related to what I was watching, but like, so yeah. So I don't know.
At this point, you're not watching the how it should have ended for the Avengers. You're watching like how it should have ended for Predator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, for real. So yeah, so I don't know. I'm very much of a realist, and like, I don't see in the spiritual. I see the reality around me. So I don't see the spiritual stuff. So like, I see like, that's a gray Red Bull can. I don't see that as God saying don't drink that because it's bad for you. You know what I mean? I just see that as an energy drink. Like, so I don't see spiritual as often. Like, I don't see the God in things. Like, I got a scholarship when I went to college. I did that. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see God making the way or providing me with the skills.
It felt like you earned it.
Yeah, it felt like I earned it and I did it. You know what I mean? Or the job I have right now, like, I earned that. You know what I mean? Like I didn't see God working to get me that job. You know what I mean? Like I have the degree. I have 2 bachelors and a master's. You know, I have 8 years of experience prior to working here. Like I did all that. You know what I mean? Like
That's me, man. That's
Yeah.
all me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't, and where Jasmine is like, no, God got you that job. God did all this. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, you know what I mean? So like, that's where I come from.
I tend to agree with Jasmine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like I see reality as like black and white, what I did.
Yep.
I don't see the spiritual side of things, and I'm learning to see it more often. And so that's where I'm like, is God putting me to sleep to avoid this? Is this just me being tired? Like trying to be more open to that idea that, you know, God is preventing this from happening because he knows that like, I don't want to do that anymore. So like, is that him or is that me? Like where are we? Is it just me being tired, or is it God preventing disaster basically?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it could be for sure.
Yeah. So.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. No, I don't think it's, if you're not religious and you're listening to this, I don't think it's oftentimes like we're always trying to find God in things. We're putting God in different areas
Where he's not.
But the reality is when you believe that everything was created by God, and when you believe that, not quite that everything happens for a purpose, that's not implicit that that's the case, but you get to look at that and it's like, wow, if God doesn't put me to sleep the next time that I'm struggling with it, it was a blessing that he did the other times.
Yeah.
And it's still my responsibility. But when you get a little bit of assistance, or you get a leg up on the situation that feels unnatural, it's like, I don't know if that was God, but it was good. And I know God does good things, and that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's good.
So you struggled with it even while you're married.
Mm-hmm.
Did Tiffany ever catch you?
No.
And does she know that you struggled?
Well, at least she never told me about it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she did.
Did she, what was I going to say? Did you ever?
But I told her. I have told her that.
You've told her?
With it, yeah.
Okay. And how did she react to that?
Oh, she's very supportive.
So she didn't like my way or the highway or anything like that. She wasn't like get this under control or else, like there wasn't.
No, but I mean, obviously it hurt her.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. So, and would you say you struggle with it now, or?
I by no means struggle with it in the way that I did.
Okay.
Like I said, right? Sometimes it was daily, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Or all day.
Yeah.
On the rare occasion.
Yeah.
What a waste of time. But no, yeah. Like I definitely, there's times where you're like, wow, I'm being tempted.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of times where I was listening to Focus on the Family a ways back with my mom left it on the radio, and I was just listening to it on one night when I was driving back from college. It was a minivan, a gold Chrysler minivan.
Nice.
That was a baller car. And I didn't change the station. I was listening to it, and I was which is weird. I normally change the station.
Yeah,
But he was
gangster
talking
rap.
I'm a gangster rap. Gotta get my gangster on.
Tyler's the whitest person alive.
Yeah, that's true.
But he loves his gangster rap.
That's so good. So I was listening to it, and the guy's like 50, 60 talking on the show. And he's like, I have password set up on my computer. And the guy had so much guardrail set up around that. He was like 50, 60. And that was a moment where I'm like, yeah, this is something that it doesn't matter at what point at life you're in, you're going to struggle with it.
Yeah.
You can be 70 and you can struggle with it. So yeah, I struggle with it. I presume that I will continue to struggle with it the rest of my life in some capacity, maybe alterations in how difficult it is, or if I stumble or if I don't stumble. Yeah. But it's something that I've been able to put more protection around. And I feel like I've been able to come to a healthier understanding of myself and like what triggers me to be able to avoid that. And I feel like in general, like I realized that the more that I was scared of it, the easier it was to fall into it. And so the more of a boogeyman I made it, the harder it was for me to be able to overcome.
Yeah.
I made it this very scary thing, and it was so scary that I couldn't imagine beating it. And it was like, when I was tempted, I'm like, frick. All right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's my phone.
Yeah.
I put the website on it. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a lot of that has actually been able to look at it from a different perspective. And I was like, it's actually just sad.
Yeah.
It's not scary. It's sad.
Yeah.
And whenever I think about it, I can think about it like in the past or present, whenever it is. Like, it's not something that's like scary to me. It's sad.
Yeah.
And on empowering it in my life has been very important to be able to have control over it. Because I'm like, dude, if the worst thing that I have in my life that I struggle with is porn, I'm not doing a lot.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, like, of all the things you could be struggling with in your life, if you're choosing to continue to struggle with porn, I feel as though we are being beaten on a fairly novice field. And there's like this world out there that we could be contributing to. And there are spiritual battles that we can partake in. But instead, it's like we're not jumping on the battlefield, like we're fighting ourselves. Because really, it's ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like Paul talks about, it's an issue with yourself. And when you struggle with it, you're hurting yourself. It's corruption to yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of this solo thing. And it's a very selfish thing to be consumed with it. If I'm just like looking at it analytically, I'm not saying that in any way to demean anyone that struggles with it. Like I said, I still struggle with it. But when I struggle with it, I'm like, do I really want to be struggling with the same personal battle for like my entire life? Or do I want to struggle with something bigger than myself and contribute beyond myself? Because there's a world out there where people are struggling, and it's not with porn, it's with much bigger issues.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to be able to contribute there. I want to get out of living like a teenager at my parents' house.
Yeah.
I don't want to continue living that way.
Yeah.
So I guess like as far as where I'm at now, it's something that I can always continue to do better on. And not that I strive, but I seek to be better at it. And I have failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've failed. But you always, like the whole Batman thing, like, why do we fall, Mr. Wayne? So we can get back up again.
Oh, man. I knew Batman was showing up at some point.
He's my favorite.
I'm surprised it took 2 episodes before Batman showed up for
he is
Tyler.
the best.
So I guess what advice would you have for somebody struggling with this? We like to have like
positive,
hope at the end.
This isn't like The Empire Strikes Back. This is.
I mean, I've never seen that.
This is a new hope.
I don't know what
like
it is.
Luke's coming out, and you're like, there is hope.
I don't know what any of this means. I've only seen like 3 Star Wars movies, and they all sucked.
Bert, you are criminally strict with watching every Marvel movie, but you can't give one of the best franchises the time of day, which is Star Wars.
I've seen 4 Star Wars movies. I saw episode 2 in theaters. Didn't understand what was going on. It was terrible. I saw episode 7 in theaters. Said, oh my gosh, I haven't even seen the original 3, and I know this is a ripoff of number 4, which a lot of people confirmed for me without seeing them. And then we saw 8, which felt like a ripoff of number 5, which may or may not be as true, but it was still semi-confirmed. And then we saw, what's the one where everybody dies? It's
Rogue One?
Yes, we saw that one. And I said,
it's one of the best new ones.
This was pointless. Everyone died.
Still one of the best new ones.
And then those are the 4 we've seen. And I think I saw like 20 minutes of episode 4 at your house one time. You had it on. But yeah, anyways. So we want to leave on like a positive note. Yeah. So what advice would any listener? Yeah. So like people who are struggling, I would assume that your advice would predominantly
be towards men.
Yes. I couldn't think of the word for that. But like your advice
what are they? This group of abstract human beings.
No, like there's a word in between there that I was trying to think. I can't think of it, but like your advice is going to be geared mainly towards men. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't expect you to have advice for women that are dealing with it.
Absolutely. I think that I would be focused on, I think the first thing I just want to understand is like, it's fine. I'm fine. I'm sitting here right now listening to this podcast, and it's fine. I'm alive. I'm well. God is good. And tomorrow is still there.
Yeah.
And what I did yesterday or right before listening to this podcast is not where my life has ended. Like, I'm right here. I'm fine. You have to be able to understand that you're more than the moment you're in, and that there's going to be another day, and that when you fail, there is another day, hopefully. But as far as we know, there is another day, because otherwise, yeah. But if you can, with your brain, acknowledge that there is a tomorrow, then you are able to be fine. If you're not, you have other problems. So I think the biggest thing is realizing that you're bigger than the moment you're in, and you have a life ahead of you, and you're going to do great things, and you have a lot to offer, and it may not feel like it, but you're not insignificant, and you can contribute to so many things you couldn't even imagine. And so you gotta like take a step back, not be so defeated by it, and understand that you're not alone. Everyone, with the exclusion of some who are extremely blessed, have struggled with what you're struggling with. You're not unique. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're actually very normal.
Yeah.
You're a very normal person. But so first you got to acknowledge that, then you don't feel like such a victim, right?
Yeah.
You're not just the sole victim. It's a big issue that everyone has. After you're able to understand that, take a breather, relax for a second, inhale, exhale, the whole good thing. I tried to think about like what I actually wanted to do, and I would try to figure out like what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
In a real sense, it's like you can be 40 and not know what you're going to do with your life. And you need something that you are pushing towards that is bigger than the moment you're in. And that could be community. It could be becoming a role model to your siblings. It could be becoming someone that can support your parents when they get old. It could be someone that crushes college and goes to be the first generation for your family and continues on. There's so many things that you can do that are bigger than the moment you're in. And I would reorient my focus to be less focused on today and a little bit more focused on tomorrow and how I can improve on who I am today. And if I can make micro improvements day by day, right.
Yeah.
If I can make micro improvements, then you're going to be able to get out and you'll be able to survive and you're going to do great things. So I would do as much as I can to remove myself from a mindset that penalizes me, that unempowers me, that makes me a victim and holds me back as I could. Because you're not something that you've done. You're bigger than that.
Yeah. Okay. I think the only advice that I would give is keep fighting. Like you said, don't give up. And one thing so I went on Quest, which is like a men's retreat. I don't know if have you ever heard of it?
You told me about it. That's my familiarity.
So one of the things that porn obviously came up, it was a bunch of dudes on a retreat. But one of the things that stuck out and helped me like for a couple months, but about that, like one of the things they said about porn when we were on Quest was that, so we're made in God's image, right? Like you're created in God's image. And for me, at least, I'm created in God's image. Other Christians are created in God's image. And that's where it stops. But then they were like, it doesn't say that. It says everyone was created in God's image. So when you're watching porn and you're masturbating to it, you're masturbating to God's image. And that like flipped a switch in my head of,
it's a powerful image.
Like, that's not okay. You know what I mean? It instantly flips it from being like detached to crap. Like,
it brought the relationship into it.
Yeah, it brought it brought God into a situation that, for the most part, people try to hide from him. So it was like he was like, gotcha, you can't hide from me anymore. You know what I mean? So, and that was like super impactful for me, like for a couple months, and then off, the reminder of that and the meaning of that kind of lost its luster too, I would say. But I would just encourage you to remember that, like, you're not just looking at somebody who's not a Christian. You're also like looking at something God created. Like, whether you want to see it or not, that's his creation too. Like, he created all of us. He didn't just create the Christians and then the rest of the world figured it out how to create life. God created it all. So that would be my advice.
That's really good.
Is to think that too, like, to remember that you're not just, it's more attached than you realize.
Yeah. On that same note, I think it's really on that exact same thought. You are looking at something that is beautiful because it is God's image.
Yeah.
The human body is beautiful. And so it's not unnatural to be attracted to that, and understanding that that's a normal thing, I think, is also powerful. It's like, not like you're an evil person. You're not a bad person for thinking that the human body is attractive.
Yeah.
That's very normal. In fact, you're supposed to think it's attractive.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful creation.
Yeah. That's not where the sin starts. The sin starts when you act on it.
It is.
So.
And Adam and Eve, both naked.
Yeah.
No issues. And they're both probably beautiful people.
Yeah.
So it's not just being naked or seeing someone that's naked that's the problem. It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tyler, for sharing your story. That was awesome. Definitely lasted longer than I thought it would. So last time you were on, you talked about your YouTube channel.
Didn't I?
Has that started yet?
I did. So we're originally planning on getting some content out on the 1st.
September?
Of September,
okay.
Yeah.
So it's STOUER.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I spelled it wrong. I did STOWER, I think. Or no, I think I did STAUER.
It doesn't surprise me. There's 80 ways to spell Mauer. There's like 30 ways to spell stout. Yeah. There's probably 120 ways to spell Stour.
Yeah, so I'll correct it on this one. But yeah, so you have started that.
We did. We filmed a podcast. Didn't do anything with it. We did it with our iPhone just to say that we did it. It was really kind of a moment to be intentional with conversation and to set aside time to talk and to decompress. Okay. And so that could be talking about some things we're interested in, passionate about, but a little bit about life too, because we're both not needing necessarily another job because we have a lot of time. Yeah,
this has taken up a lot of our time too.
Yeah,
we used to watch TV every day, and now it's like, she's like, I gotta edit this episode. I can't, like, just put friends.
I can't do this.
Like, we watch all these different TV shows, and it's like, I don't know when we're gonna watch them anymore. Like, we watch Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. It's awesome. It's like a murder mystery type thing.
I'll take your word on it.
And so like, episodes come out on Tuesdays, and we didn't watch last week's episode till Saturday because we were so busy with this kind of stuff. So it's like, this stuff consumes all your free time. So
it's so good though.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The impact, the positive impact that you can have with this is way more.
Yeah. And we've gotten some feedback from some people, because Jasmine had said, like, oh, sorry if our audio sucks or something like that. Like, almost like self-deprecating, like excusing what we're doing, like trying to minimize it. And one of her friends was like, don't hinder what God has set you out to do, if that makes sense. So, like, yeah, you're busy, and yeah, like, it takes up all your time, but if it's something God wants you to do it. You know what I mean? Like, with your YouTube channel, with Tiffany's blog or whatever.
From Tiff with Love.
Yes, that.
Hashtag from Tiff with Love.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Don't stop. If God put it on your heart to do it, it doesn't matter how big it is or how successful it is. It's going to reach the people it needs to. It's going to have the impact it needs to, So which is really cool because like we set out to do this as like, we'll see what happens. Like she came up with the idea and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And you know,
I think if you're going to put it in a different perspective, if you were going to say, would I rather have a positive impact on one person, or would I rather spend, say, like 2 weeks time watching a TV show? If you consolidated it,
right?
Like what's more valuable?
Right, exactly. That's our goal, is to help as many people as possible. So, but anyways, so your YouTube channel, and it launches. So,
yep.
At this point, when this comes out, it's like 3 or 4 weeks old.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'll put a
and you're doing a podcast too.
Doing a podcast on it. Yeah, it's like long form audio, which we'll probably do video of. Okay. So we'll post that on the channel, maybe do snippets, whatever. And then eventually, when we have time, we want to do some more fun stuff with cars.
Okay.
Though I will say we both have a extensive desire to do things above and beyond. So we don't really have the time to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Which is why we haven't done it yet.
Okay.
So the podcast is a way to make steps forward without being able to contribute the time towards some of the fun stuff we want to do, right? So we're sacrificing some of the fun stuff we want to do to make sure that work goes well. We started a business and we're trying to finish it and make it go well. And that's very easily one of our both of our dream jobs. And so we're making sure that goes well. And then when we do have time, it's important to decompress and be able to take a breather. And if that's 2 hours every other week of just sitting down and being like, holy crap, what happened? Then that's worth doing, because life's going very fast right now. And if we don't force ourselves to take a break, it's not going to happen. So that's kind of, we're forcing ourselves to take a break and kind of recollect and be in the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this has been another episode of Not So Sugar-Coated with Bert and Jasmine. This episode, no Jasmine. Thank you, Tyler, for your time and your story.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
it. And Jasmine, don't hate me, but I'm going to do this again because it's really funny.
I will say, if there is a decrease in the use of these buttons going forward, I will be slightly disappointed.
She didn't want me to use them at all. She's like, do not touch those.
Jasmine, I did semi-force him to use it, so I can take some of the blame on that. If there's blame to be put somewhere, I told him to do it. My bad. They're colorful buttons.
They're awesome.
It's like, can I push one?
Yeah, go for it. Push whatever one you want.
I'm gonna push the purple one.
Yeah, of course you are.
How nice is that? Look at that.
Some awesome crickets.
Some crickets. It's looking up. Look at that.
Okay, so this has been Not So Sugar-Coated with Bert and Jasmine. Minus Jasmine this week. We'll be back next week with another episode. I think after Tyler, we're going to start talking about marriage. So,
whoa.
Hopefully people are ready for that, because that's going to be a long series.
These are all like focusing on areas that people don't talk about, need to talk about, because everyone has experience with them.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Excited to tune in for the marriage series.
Awesome. All right. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.